Hi, this is Kate with Kate's Paper Creations. I welcome you to my weekly Casing the Catalog video and blog, where I feature products used from the current Stampin' Up! Catalogs. And today I am going to be casing, which could be referred to as either copy and share everything or copy and selectively edit, as I learned from another site the other day. And I am going to be doing this card from page 82 of the annual 2021-22 catalog. And it uses the Free as a Bird stamp set, which is a returning stamp set. It's been with us for at least 1 year, maybe more. Can't remember. But that's the stamp set I'm going to be using. Mine is going to look a little bit different, mainly because I could not figure out what they did for this white background on this particular card. If it's a standard A2 card, I didn't have a die that would fit and still have all of the birds and stem in there that they show in this picture. So I changed it up to make it work for me. We'll see what you think. This is the card I came up with, the version that I made. So I did copy and yet selectively edit some of it. And so let's get started. I'll show you how we put that together. It's a Daffodil Delight base, 5.5 by 8.5, scored at 4 1/4 to make that A2 sized greeting card, which is ultimately 4 1/4 by 5.5. Get that where I want it. There we go. That's nice and even. We'll set that aside. It's going to be a top fold card. Okay. Then the next layer is also Daffodil Delight, and it is cut 4 by 5 1/4, and it is embossed with this absolutely gorgeous stitched greenery die. And I absolutely am in love with this die. I don't think that if it gets discontinued, I'm going to be able to let go of it. It has 2 different sides to it, and I'll show you that. Both sides look absolutely gorgeous. This is the not raised side, and you see all the stitching of the leaves. And then this is the indented side, I guess you'd say. This is the side I'm going to be using. I'm sure that this is considered the back side, but it is pretty and could still be used. So that's going to go on here eventually with dimensionals. Then for the birds, I cut a piece of basic white. And did I write down my measurements for that? The paper was cut 3 by 4 1/4. And then I used the rectangular stitched rectangle dies, and I used the die that measures 2 3/4 by 4 1/8. And I cut out this piece, and then I stamped this bird design on there from the Free as a Bird stamp set. Then I brought in the Detailed Trio Punch, I believe is what it's called. And I put those little, I used this one to put those little designs in the corner. Just make sure you get it in there all the way and get it straight. And then it'll come out perfect every time. And we'll hope that I can do it 4 times perfectly. There we go. And you can see me, I'm just kind of tucking it in there, making sure I've got it all the way in. I felt like this kind of helped relieve the squareness of this piece, helped keep it from being totally square. So I really liked the way that came out like that. And that's using that Detailed Trio Punch. These, by the way, are stamped with Tuxedo Black Memento ink, because we're going to be coloring them today with colored pencils. Now I have both set 1 and set 2. They're both available in the catalog. I keep them in a container, in a stamping case like this, and I always keep them with a blender pen, because I use that to smooth out my coloring. And most of these colors, all but all of these colors, and I'll read them off to you. This one is Granny Apple Green. This one is Coastal Cabana. This one is Balmy Blue. This one is Garden Green. And this one is Early Espresso. And this one is Crushed Curry. These 5, they came from set 2. And the Early Espresso came from set 1. But I needed a brown for the branch. And so I had to delve into the other set. Now, when you're coloring with colored pencils, the more you color the harder you press, the more color you're going to have. So you can adjust your shading and that with your colored pencils. And so I go over it always lightly at first. And then if you want to come back and add some accents, you can do that. And it will darken up. Another thing that you can do, and I'll show you that on the larger ones, is let's see, Granny Apple Green and Garden Green. Okay, and I'm going to color the leaves with the Granny Apple Green, and I'm going to color them totally with just the Granny Apple. It's a really pretty light green color. It's got a yellow undertone, but that's okay. Some people don't seem to like that, and that's okay. I can't say I don't like it. I can't say I don't like blue undertones. You know, both are appealing to me. I like lots of color. God definitely created our world with lots and lots of colors. I get jealous sometimes of the tropical places that have such gorgeously bright colored birds in them and stuff. I go, oh, I live in Washington State. What kind of colors do we have? Then I'm coming back with the Garden Green on those leaves, and where the hash marks are on those leaves, that's kind of like an accent point, and I'm just adding a little bit of the dark green to those spots on there, and so it gives a little bit of extra tone to the leaves. And you can see, hopefully, as I'm doing that, how it just adds to the dimension that you sense when you're looking at them. And there's the leaves. Nice, quick, and easy. The Crushed Curry is used for the flowers, and it's kind of a pretty yellowish, orangish, yellowish color. So we'll do all the flowers. And as you know, if you've watched me color much, I'm not a perfectionistic colorer. Oh, and I always manage to miss a leaf or two. Here we go. Let's go back and finish these 2 leaves. I always manage to do that, you know. And we'll add some accents to them. There we go. Let's go back and finish the flowers. How can I look at something? I don't know. I lose things on my desk. I know it's on my desk. I've been using it, and I'll go to try and find it, and I have to just stop and look and look and look because it's right in front of my eyes, right? I thought only men did that, but I do it too. Okay, now we're going to do the birds. I'm starting with Balmy Blue, and I'm going to kind of start with their heads, make their heads just a little bit darker, and then I'm going to try and just bring in just a tiny bit of color. And I'm not worried about the streaks. I'm going to fix that in a minute, you'll see. And so with the blender pen, and I'll show you how I'm going to do that in just a moment. But let's get their little heads colored and some accents put in here. And I'm just bringing in a little bit of color. Now I'm going to take my blender pen, and I just love using this blender pen with colored pencils because it smooths out that color and spreads it out, and it keeps it nice and pale. Now, one thing you do have to remember when you're doing this is with this Whisper White is don't play with it too much. Be prepared to stop, because if you play with it too long, the paper won't hold up. It'll start to pill up on you. Okay, so you've got to kind of watch out for that. But I think it needs a little more color to be spread out. Let's add a little bit more to that guy. And I don't want it to end abruptly. So I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to put a little bit of color over here with the pencil, and I'm going to pick it up with my blender pen, and then I'm going to soften this up just a little bit more. And that's going to be good enough. Clean up my blender pen. Those will get put away in my watercolor box. So there's my little birdies. My art piece is complete. I am going to attach this to this, and I'm just going to attach it flat with Stampin' Seal. Just put a little bit between each of those. Sometimes. There we go. And I just centered it on here, like that. And then I brought in the thread that I'm using, and this is Playful Pets Trim Combo. And they have black with white, and I believe they have red. I'm not sure. But anyway, this is one of them. I'm going to just wrap this piece around. I don't do very well having to wrap it around and tie a bow, so I am going to just put a little bit of adhesive on the back side to hold the thread in place. Like this. And then I'm going to just kind of see, I want it to ride just above those little flower cutouts in the corners. So I'm going to pull it just a little bit tight so it bends the cardstock just a little bit, so that when I actually lay it down, it'll hold tight. Then I am going to turn this over and attach this piece. Stay there where you belong. I'm going to attach this piece with dimensionals. Let me get my dimensionals out here. And we'll put those on. This embossed piece is maybe just a little bit more flimsy than when you emboss it, and so I'm going to add a few extra dimensionals just to make sure it all stays in place. That's enough. And it gets attached with that 1/4 inch border all the way around. And there we are. There's that. I'll get those later. And then I cut another piece about 10 inches long to make the bow separately. And I just make bows by making a loop in my right hand and a loop in my left hand, crossing them over each other and chasing loop left into the rabbit hole, and there it is. And then it's just a matter of adjusting the loops to the size you want. I think a little bit smaller. I think that looks good. Tighten it down a little bit better. That looks good to me. I'll get a glue dot and we'll attach that with a glue dot, and that'll help set that string in place better. Just like that. And then I just stamped the sentiment, and the sentiment I used comes from the Feels Like Home stamp set. I can't thank you enough. I'm going to stamp it with the Granny Apple Green because I just like that color. If I can get my hands on it, there it is. I'll open those up. Kind of push my bow out of the way and put that right across the bottom like this. Perfecto mundo. All right. That's my clock in the background, if you can hear it. It's a bird clock. Okay, so there's that part, and then I'll trim those little, get my ribbon scissors. I have 2 pairs of the snips from Stampin' Up. One pair I keep really sharp, and I use it for my ribbon cutting. And I put a little piece of ribbon on here so I remember which ones are the ribbon ones. And then I have another pair that I use for my paper. And it just helps me keep a nice sharp pair handy for when I'm needing to cut ribbon. And there we go. And then I decided it needed a little something, so I got out the Playing with Patterns resin dots, and it's got these really lovely yellow ones. They're actually supposed to be considered crushed curry, which is what we used on the flowers. And so that's what I am going to use, and I'm using the smallest of those. It's a good thing I've got 2 sheets, because it looks like this one is just about out. And I'm just covering up those little spots in the corners of those corner decorations with one of those dots. Just like that. We'll sneak that one in there as well. And that is how I copied and selectively edited today's project from page, what did I say, 82 of the annual catalog, using that returning stamp set, Free as a Bird. Hope you enjoyed today's video. Please subscribe if you haven't. I'd love to have you subscribe with me. I'm trying to get up to 400 by the end of the year. I'm at 377 right now, I think, so I don't have very far to go. So I look forward to seeing more people subscribe. If you don't have a Stampin' Up! Demonstrator, I would love to have you shop with me, and I always put a link to my online store in the description box below, as well as a link to my blog. If you'd rather do blogs than videos, you can go to my blog and subscribe there at katespapercreations.org. Thanks for stopping by.